Okay, hi everyone. So yes, DESFire, how physical access control breaks. Maybe quick. First problem. No. First, quick. Who am I? Just quickly. I don't know. I'm Markus Vervier. I'm doing stuff at X41, non-ordinary technical stuff, also direction stuff. But I have a background in penetration testing, security research, and with me is Yasar.
Yeah, hi. I'm a working student at X41. I study still.
Yeah, and we basically did the research together.
Yeah.
And quick overview of the talk. So talk is about DESFire and how we discovered a critical vulnerability in real-world alarm system that's using DESFire for access control and digital logs, but also like how can DESFire systems be attacked, right? What are things that could go wrong? And then we show some things that that you need if you want to attack it, like emulating tags, and we show a demo about what we did and how we opened the log without having the proper key in the first place. Yes. Just want to mention, I mean, there was already a lot of research ongoing against these systems, DESFire, protocols and RFID tags, because that's what the log is using also. It's just two examples, and just want to mention that a lot of these attacks were against like the tokens or for example, the random numbers generators of the generated by the tokens. We looked more at the general protocol and the general how it works and where you can attack it, and not, let's say, at particular tags or weaknesses there, more looking on the other side. Yes. So that's a picture of the target. It's one of these electronic logs. There are multiple manufacturers and multiple implementations. Most of them somehow are from the same companies, so there are more vendors than actual manufacturers. This one is Telenot. It's a German company. They do alarm systems, and part of the alarm systems also these electronic log cylinders. And I think internally they're from another company, Südmetall or Cplex. So you will find these logs, and that's actually maybe for you. Maybe you have a similar looking log. Maybe check, could be the same model. They sort of all look the same, different branding. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So they're used for home use and even in businesses. Some banks use them, which we found interesting because it's important. Sorry. Yeah, sorry.
No, all good. All good. I think we did the switch one slide too early. It was after the slide. So just so alarm systems, they're used, of course, different businesses. And important thing here is, I guess, it's DESFire and it's NFC tags. And also what we discovered is that the same thing that we found is also applicable not only to the DESFire, but also to remote access from alarm systems. The talk is not too much about that, but we want to mention it. We will mention it at the end. And so why we mentioned this slide is also because we are using in our company, we're using the system ourselves. And at one point, since we also try to eat our own dog food, and we test everything that we also use. At one point, I told Yasar, or asked Yasar if he could maybe look into how this system works, but actually not really for finding bugs. I mean, it's the usual story, but it's more about accessibility. But like, I want to have the access logs of these logs, and they have TCP/IP, and they only have a GUI app, so we would like to have some command line clients. So let's maybe just reverse it, and that's usually then the time to fire up IDA and the debugger and to capture some traffic. And that's basically where Yasar basically comes in. And yeah, so I hand over to you.
Yeah. So we used IDA and Proxmark actually to hack it, but in the beginning just IDA. We'll now have a look at Ghidra because we had license server issues with IDA. But IDA's cool, it's just for the record. Yeah, so I don't know, one of the first things I usually do, just look at the imports, and what we actually found, if you see it, it's very small on the left, there's RAND being imported, and that's always curious because, yeah, RAND isn't secure, and this is this, alarm system that's supposed to be secure. So it was interesting to have a look at where they actually use it. It's some, I don't know, Delphi app or whatever. Thankfully, they included some debug symbols, so we just look at the where RAND is used and at the bottom. Yeah, okay, that doesn't work. But it's in German, but it says, yeah, make Zufalls AES-Schlüssel. It means create random AES key. So that's already kind of, yeah, looks bad that they use a non-secure random number generator in, or non-cryptographically secure random number generator for AES key generation. And having a look at it, it's pretty ugly because it's decompiled, but we can see here they use srand seeded with time. Oops. Yeah, and that's, so yeah, that's pretty bad because there's just, yeah, for each second there's going to be just one key, and yeah, there aren't that many seconds. So a bit more cleaned up. We can see that they, yeah, oops. Yeah, again, they use srand, seeded with time, then just get 16 random numbers, use them as a key, and yeah, so that really isn't secure. Yeah, as said before, they're also used as the remote access keys for accessing logs or whatever, or administrating it. But yeah, like a small spoiler, sadly, you can't really attack the thing via TCP/IP, even though there are a bunch of them on the internet, because they heavily rate limited. But so we looked at the DESFire application keys used for physical access. Yeah.
Okay. So we looked at the DESFire application keys, and just to reiterate, so we looked at the software that basically manages these alarm systems and that provides the keys, and it also generates the keys. So yeah, I mean, weak randomness is actually, I mean, I guess nothing too new, but the more interesting thing starts actually now, because how can we actually attack this? I mean, yeah, you have weak key, and we see that the key space might not be too big, so it's you can bound it by 16 times 2 to the power 32, so 2 to the power 36, I think. As max keys. But I mean, if you only have like 5 tries in your physical system, that's probably still maybe safe enough, right? So until there's a rate limit or the key is rejected or so. So we were thinking, okay, what can we do? I mean, online attacks don't really work that well. Slow, rate limited, also noisy. If you go to the log, stand in front of the door whole day, not a good idea. What about an offline attack? Can we like capture some challenge response, and can we like attack these keys on our own hardware, right? On our own cracking harness. But the question is that actually possible? And we didn't find anything. And for that, maybe we do a quick intro to DESFire, just high level. Later on, we will go a bit deeper to the authentication, how it actually works. But so there was this MyFair Classic, and that was super insecure, and people found there can hack it super easily. But in 2006, they introduced DESFire EV1, and now it's, as far as I know, EV3 is the latest. And there actually they use real cryptography, and so they have NFC tags, and they have 7 bytes identifiers, which are not really a security feature. And you can have multiple applications, and you have like an authentication protocol that uses DES. Okay, not good. The 2K3DS, maybe a bit better, but you can also use AES. And the attacks actually do proper crypto. As far as we could see, apparently before some people found there might be some problems, but that's not part of our research. So, and yeah, NFT uses APDUs, and it's kind of similar to smart cards. So, and what we've seen before from what Yasar reversed was that they used the Unix timestamp for seeding. And for example, if it was introduced in 2006, yeah, we can say it's even less keys. And so we had a plan. We wanted to first off see, okay, can we build a piece of code to just regenerate the code? Yeah, we could do that. We reversed the algorithm. It was super simple. We found it. They were using a Bolland implementation of the RAND. Yes, but now that we sort of can generate all possible keys on our laptop, how can we actually find which one is the right one, right? What's that? And for that, we started looking at how the DESFire authentication actually works. And yeah, so we basically started tracing it with a Proxmark. And so what we found is that first, on a high level, reader asked for the information and UID of the tag. Then somehow the reader selects the wrong application on the tag, right? So it does something wrong. There's an error, and then it actually selects the correct application. Why do I mention that? It gave us a bit of or it confused us a bit. So if you have some error when reversing something, maybe it's intentional, because otherwise, if the reader doesn't do it, the authentication fails. So anybody has some idea why that is? Yeah. So we didn't find out why, but it just has to be like that. You have to do something wrong, and then you can actually start the actual authentication. A second time it's successful, and interestingly, it reads the UID of the tag again, but this time from a file, and it's secured with some CMAC also based on this key. And then, yeah, reader opens the door, but that's actually not as far as we had to look. We just want to know the key, right? Yes, so yeah, wrong application ID, and then the one that's in the file is read. And that's actually good because it means that you don't have to emulate a full tag. You can just buy some on eBay with a different UID, because normally you can change them. But you can buy some in China, or you can build one yourself, but you don't need to do that. You just need to write a file to it. And so to emulate the tag, we need two things. We need to have this UID. We can collect it just by reading the NFC tag, right? That's nothing protected. We just assume it will basically work. You can go to someone and hold it close to his pocket, and then the AES key, and that's the actual challenge, right? So how does the authentication actually work? If you hold the tag in front of a reader, the reader will actually start talking to the tag and will say like, authenticate please with AES. So the tag will generate a random number called B, and it will encrypt it with this secret key that the reader and the tag share. And the encrypted random number is sent to the reader. The reader does something with this random number. It generates its own random number, sends it back to the tag decrypts it, modifies also the random number from the reader, sends it back. So just conceptual, this is like a challenge response, mutual like authentication. And that way, basically the tag and the reader can sort of say like, yeah, okay, you're like, know the same key as me, and please open the door. So important operations here are, from the text perspective, there's a 16 random bytes security generated. We don't know if it's secure. We didn't check that because we didn't like what to hardware reverse the tags. We just saw, okay, the tag generates some kind of random number that's specified in the protocol, encrypts it, reader modifies it, sends it back, the tag can verify it. And if it's verified correctly, then yeah, that's basically okay for opening the door. And they use AES-CBC encryption. That's also not pretty, let's say, recommended, but yeah, we didn't also find something that would introduce a weakness there on that level. So, what is the actual operation that that the reader and the tag do to the random decrypted random numbers they find? They basically rotate. It's a bit rotation. Question is, why do they actually do that? And they do it because they can later check if the rotation can be reversed. So, reader says, authentication, please. Tag generates the random number, encrypts it. Reader gets the random number, decrypts it, bit rotates it, sends it back to the tag. The tag is decrypting that, rotating backwards, and will then see, okay, this actually is the same random number that I sent in the first place, right? Fair enough. Yeah, so each side proves it knows the key. Now we got a bit of a problem. Let's say we know it's one of these keys that we can generate on our laptops. How do we actually brute force them? How do we actually brute force the keys here? Because there's a random number we don't know. We have the ciphertext of the random number, but if you try all possible keys, what is actually the signal that shows us when we found the right one? Because we don't know the correct decryption result, right? So we don't know it. So what's the signal? And it turns out this rotation of the random number and what the reader sends back is actually the key for that, because we have two ciphertexts, and the first ciphertext contains the encrypted random number from the tag, and the second ciphertext contains the encrypted and rotated random number from the tag. So what we can do, we decrypt both of these ciphertexts with each of our keys, and we check if what is the decrypted results if they are basically matching in being rotated, right? We do the same thing as the tag, just for each key. And that actually gives us a signal to say, like, with a high probability, because with AES, if you flip one bit, the result will completely change with a high probability. So that's actually our signal, and that's what we basically implemented to go to a log, collect the challenge. Go to reader, collect also the challenge, and basically do that. Okay, now the question is, we still don't know the rotated number. We still don't know the random number. So how can we go to a reader, and how can we make it encrypt something for us, right? And that's actually the nice thing with AES, or with works in our favor. So each random string can be decrypted as an AES ciphertext, and it will result in something, right? You put some random bytes into an AES algorithm, and out comes some plain text, right? So what we do is, we have our fake tag, mallory tag. We generate some random bytes, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever bytes, 16 bytes. We send that to the reader. The reader will apply AES. It will decode the encrypted random data from us to something, bit rotate it, send it back to us, to our bad tag. So now we got the same situation as before. We have like encrypted B, and we have something that is rotated encrypted B. So we can apply the same algorithm, can say, like, okay, we just try to decrypt whatever with each of the keys until we find a matching pair that is rotated. So, and yeah, I hand over to Yasar, who implemented that then, as that is the algorithm.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, it's basically just like he explained. We decrypt the challenge that we sent with the key we want to try, see what we got, also decrypt what we got from the log back, and then just compare the last the part of the challenge of what we got back from the log is the what our challenge shifted. We just implemented a very simple brute forcer, like the naive one you see. He's just single threaded, just not even fancy optimizations or whatever. And all the keys since 2006 could be just cracked on this laptop in like 3 minutes. So yeah, it's like you could probably even, if you want to go into some bank or so, you just go with a Proxmark and a phone, walk there, get the challenge, send it to someone who has a laptop or so, have him crack it, and get it back in a few minutes. I mean, probably you don't have to try the last 16 years or so. You probably know, like, I don't know, the bank is 5 years old. And then you can just walk in. At first you have to get a UID from someone, but then you just walk by some employee, also grab it with your phone. Then you have everything you need to get into the bank, or I don't know, some home or whatever. Then Markus sat down and wanted to make it even quicker. So he made like a fancy AES-NI native encryption, native instruction optimizations. It uses fork, so it's just multi-threaded. You just use all your cores. It's way quicker.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess you can maybe show it. We have it.
Is it even readable? That's terrible.
Yeah. Maybe quickly just that what we see. I mean, we have a tag challenge, right? And we have the log challenge, and this is both that we have to go to the log, basically interact with the log, and then we can get that. But we don't need the interaction we don't need to be man in the middle, and we don't need to interact with the tag, except for getting the right UID, right? The UIDs are not really completely random, so there could also be some option. I mean, for the starter, we made our life easy because we just assumed to say like, okay, we can basically, somebody can just hold the reader next to us. But even if you don't have that, there might be some options, because we saw that the UIDs are all pretty similar. So if you have one, maybe you have all the others.
They wrote down somewhere that it's according to some standard, but you have to pay hundreds of euros, if I remember correctly, to get that, because it's some ISO standard thing or so. Yeah. I think that's how it was. But yeah, so we have on the right, we have now our slow brute force. So I think it takes like 20 seconds to get a key, and then we'll see Markus's thing go fast.
Yeah, it's more of an engineering challenge, I guess. But it's I would say it was kind of interesting to see, okay, how fast can we actually brute force this? Does it take a year or less? Yeah, okay. So if we do that, I don't know, maybe we show the code quickly.
You want to do that?
Yeah.
Which one?
The left one. So we used AES-NI for that, and that's from what we know. I mean, you could probably implement it in Hashcat, but so this implementation was Apache licensed, so I didn't do that myself. Basically the standard AES-NI, AES ECB, or AES, just AES encryption. Then you have to do the mode. Of course, we had to replicate the same great random number function, which some kind of magic values. We first thought it's the Microsoft one, but then we discovered it's the Borland one, and it's nearly the same, but slightly different. I want to explain exactly. We will. I think we published the non-multi processed or multi-threaded one, but we will also publish this one. And why is it interesting to actually get, yeah, I won't go into the details here, but why is it actually interesting to get this as fast as possible? I mean, yeah, I mean, they use this here for this log from Telenode to generate their keys. But I mean, you could also imagine that there might be slightly better versions of the key generation, right? So being able to brute force that fast can be important, right? There could be also other logs that have weak key generation, but maybe it's not that weak, or maybe people can enter their passwords and it's converted to an AES key, right? Something like that. And that's actually why I personally found it quite interesting that we could like offline brute force. So, yeah.
Oh yeah, we have also a video of. We wanted to do it live, but we had some logistical issues with the logs.
Yeah. Yeah. So we show how we collect the chains from the log. Yeah, basically using the proxmark super secret, and then we yeah, basically start to brute force, and I think it was not as optimized back then. Oh no, actually, yeah, it was. We need to collect the UID from the tag, so that's sort of some physical element. But I guess, yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah, you can just read it through, yeah, genes or whatever.
And so we have know both things. But now, yeah, how do we emulate the tag? And that's what, yeah, I guess, Yasar, you implemented in the proxmark. Yeah, we can open the log.
Yeah, and you can see, you can just have it was a Raspberry Pi, a power bank, and the proxmark. I think you can.
Yeah, but by the way, we moved out of that office. So in case you
there's this Flipper Zero. I was playing around with it, but I didn't have enough time to. But I think you can also just do it with that one, and it's like way smaller. It has a built-in battery. There's a mobile app for it, and I guess since mobile phone processors should have AES native instructions, you could probably just do the brute forcing on there if you develop an app. So you could be even more stealthy and yeah. Yeah, we have some proof of concept code.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, wait for the. Yes, that's. Do you want to explain something about the proof of concept code, or about the proxmark? Were there any like challenges? I guess.
I don't remember.
Okay. Yes. Okay, so maybe the third point should be the first point. The DESFire protocol itself, we didn't break DESFire, right? So we didn't break DESFire that we found like a protocol flaw that breaks everything. It's more about the keys, but it's also about the challenge response. So maybe in that case, I would say there would be some room for improvement, right, for the protocol to design like these kind of authentication protocols. So we recommend you, if you have DESFire, please double check that the keys are generated securely, because if they're not, you can see what happens. We can break them, and there's not, yeah, it can be broken on commodity hardware. So check if the keys are generated securely, and yeah, that software that was used to generate it. I mean, yeah, that's basically a flaw in that software. But I have heard that there might be others that also do it in a bad way. or maybe the manufacturers pre-deploy the keys, right? So there are a lot of options. Then there are newer DESFire versions. They support things like key rollover, or they have like additional features that can make the compromising of keys a bit more difficult, right? So there's this application note that we link in the slides that has a comparison. And key rollover, for example, means that you can deploy multiple key sets on the tags. So if one is considered compromised, you still have the others, and maybe you generate them from different sources. And that's actually pretty important because, I guess the manufacturer had to notify all their clients, and I think they had to replace, they said something about 200,000 tokens, or thousands of tokens at least, because, I mean, if all the tokens have the same key, right? Or in most scenarios, they have the same key. So with EV2, EV3, you can use at least different keys. The EV1 or the tokens, they could have more keys, but nobody does it. So, which is also maybe important saying that everybody's using the same key. Maybe that's some hardware attacks or so to get the key out of some tag. I don't know. I'm not an expert in that, but people do pretty crazy things with like hardware attacks. DESFire kind of okay. Keys and implementations maybe not so much. And then rotating the keys on a regular basis might also mitigate something, right? Might not be that easy. On the other hand, with new DESFire versions, you can also like update keys and things. So on a more like conceptual level, future mitigations for such attacks. So if vendor wants to implement their own, let's say, a DESFire kind of protocol. I mean, there are protocols just as PAKE and zero knowledge and more modern ways to do authentication that even if you're a man in the middle or if you're able to capture traffic, they are resistant against brute force. Which would have saved the day here. DESFire also has some leak-resistant primitives, and we didn't really investigate that. So if others don't do it, we might do it in the future. That's supposed to prevent some attacks, but it's not clearly what they mean.
I mean, they call it side channel proof or so.
Which brings me to the point we did not do a man-in-the-middle attack and also not a side channel attack, right? We just basically did what the protocol specifies. So, rolling keys might also be an option, but that has some implementation challenges, right? If you have a desync and the rolling keys, right? I mean, you could, with each authentication, sort of ratchet forward the keys. So if somebody has an old challenge, they're like not useful anymore. But I mean, that gets some implementation challenges if you have a desync of the legitimate ones and these kind of things. So just some ideas floating to improve these things. Yes. Maybe you want to mention something about the relay attacks?
Yeah, a colleague had the idea to just try relay attacks, and we didn't have the time for it, but we just put some sleeps in the Proxmark code to simulate like large delays. And usually these protocols or these devices have some code that's supposed to prevent relay attacks, where like a relay attack is where one person reads the tag and another person is at the log, and you just send the challenge over Wi-Fi, like a long extinction cable, basically. And so you try to keep the amount of time between each command small enough so that isn't possible. But here it's like 75 milliseconds. At 80 milliseconds, it doesn't allow it anymore. Like it just stops authentication. But so this should be enough to just do it over Wi-Fi, like walk up to some employee and have them relay their tag.
The vendors claim that relay attacks are like, I mean, relay attacks used to be, or people demonstrated them, and I don't know, some cars stolen with relay attacks and really it's super powerful, right? And vendors claim that they have some mitigations against that, but we didn't see it, right? I mean, I guess the mitigation should be that the time is pretty small to do the challenge, the responses and challenges. But yeah, I mean, 75 milliseconds is you could probably relay to North America and back. I don't know, depends, but somewhere. So and with it's even fast enough for LTE. So LTE is like, what did we check? 11 milliseconds, so in the round trip, or like depending where you are. So we think it would be possible to relay this, right? You don't even need to hack the protocol if you get the relay from someone with a legitimate tag in his pocket back to the log. Maybe for red teaming could be an interesting scenario.
I mean, we only checked our cylinder or like reader, so it might be different for others, but yeah.
Sure, if it would be I mean, they could do a 5 milliseconds cutoff, probably help, huh? Yeah. So as a conclusion, yeah, secure random number generators is crucial, like everywhere. DESFire can be attacked with offline attacks on captured challenges from a reader. And so any system that uses a weak secret is in danger. I just claim now. And yeah, doing cut emulation is a lot of fun. You didn't see it, but yeah, we had a with some engineering, some development effort to like get the things right and speak the protocol in the right way as they expect. Okay. Yeah, we want to mention that one as resources as well, because if you look at the specs, you have a hard time.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
Like I looked at so many websites where they claim that this is how the protocol works and this is the only thing that was right. Yeah. And it was amazing, and I'm so thankful.
Yeah,
because it saved
a Polish guy that apparently did some work on doing it right. So yeah. Okay, thank you.